You're following every single piece of advice they've given you, right down to the letter, aren't you? Every single morning without fail, you sit down and visualize your desires with absolute clarity and focus. You write out your manifestations in detailed scripts, putting pen to paper with intention and presence. You recite your carefully crafted affirmations over and over again, speaking them into existence with conviction and belief. You dedicate time to meditation, sitting in stillness, trying your absolute best to stay perfectly aligned with your intentions. You consciously choose to speak in what they call high vibrational frequencies, watching every word that comes out of your mouth. You tell yourself repeatedly that you trust the universe completely, that you surrender to the divine timing of it all. Yet here's the thing that's probably eating away at you deep inside. When you actually take a moment to look around at your physical reality with honest, clear eyes, it all looks painfully, frustratingly, heartbreakingly familiar, doesn't it? Different calendar months pass by, one after another, but somehow the exact same emotions keep showing up in your daily experience. You set brand new intentions with renewed hope and enthusiasm, but somehow you keep ending up with the same disappointing outcomes you've experienced before. You start to wonder with growing confusion and frustration why this keeps happening to you over and over again. Despite all of this genuine effort you're putting in day after day, the romantic relationships you seem to magnetically attract still carry that eerily familiar feeling, almost like exact replicas of the toxic connections you've been desperately trying to escape from for so long. Your financial situation somehow finds a way to reset itself back to square one, no matter how incredibly hard you push forward or how many hours you work. Your inner emotional world swings back and forth like a pendulum, oscillating endlessly between hopeful excitement and that quiet, gnawing sense of despair that settles in when nothing seems to change. And underneath all of this surface level activity, there's a question that begins to echo louder and louder in the chambers of your mind with each passing day. What in the world am I doing wrong here? Why does my entire life feel like I'm trapped in some kind of endless loop that I simply cannot seem to break free from no matter what I try? Here's the absolute truth that nobody's been willing to tell you straight up until this very moment. It's genuinely not you at all. It has absolutely nothing to do with your inherent worth as a human being or your untapped potential waiting to emerge. It's not about your intelligence level or your mental capacity to understand these concepts properly. It's not even remotely about the sheer amount of effort you've been pouring into this manifestation work day in and day out. The real issue at the heart of everything is your frequency, the energetic signature you're broadcasting out into the universe every single moment of every single day. The quantum field that surrounds us all doesn't respond to effort in the way we've been conditioned to believe it should. It doesn't respond based on how desperately or badly you want something to manifest in your physical reality. It absolutely doesn't reward you based on the number of hours you spend visualizing your dreams or the intensity level of your affirmations or the amount of positive vibes you're consciously trying to cultivate and maintain throughout your day. The quantum field, in all its infinite wisdom and perfect neutrality, responds to one thing and one thing only: the consistent signal you broadcast unconsciously beneath the surface layer of everything you say and do with conscious awareness. It's tuning into the vibration you naturally embody when absolutely no one's looking at you or watching your performance. It reads the frequency you emit when you finally stop performing for the world and stop trying so hard to manifest. You're not stuck in this repeating pattern because you're somehow failing at the practice of manifestation or doing the techniques incorrectly. You're stuck in this loop because you genuinely haven't yet stopped vibrating at the exact same frequency as the version of yourself you've supposedly outgrown and left behind. And until that old, outdated vibration finally dissolves and releases from your energetic system completely, the field will faithfully, consistently. The quantum field itself is completely neutral in its operation and doesn't judge your desires as inherently good or bad, right or wrong, worthy or unworthy of manifestation. It simply functions as a perfect mirror, reflecting back the energetic reality that you hold as true in the deepest parts of your subconscious programming. This is precisely why, no matter how many brand new vision boards you create with beautiful images and inspiring words, how many different guided meditations you follow along with, or how many transformational books you read from cover to cover. Your actual lived life can still somehow feel eerily, disturbingly the same as it's always been. It's not a personal attack against you from the universe. It's simply physics operating exactly as it's designed to operate. There's a fundamental law of existence that you probably weren't taught about in traditional school settings, the law of vibrational repetition, which states that whatever your subconscious mind believes is safe and familiar, it will automatically recreate in your external experience. Not because it's actually aligned with your highest good or your soul's true purpose, but simply because it feels familiar to your nervous system and your subconscious recognizes it as known territory. And the quantum field listens intently to that sense of familiarity, as if it were a direct command issued from the depths of your being. It essentially says, "Oh, I see. This particular emotional state and this specific set of circumstances is what you feel most often throughout your days. This is clearly what you expect to experience based on your dominant vibration. This is the version of reality you've stabilized yourself in energetically. Okay, understood. I'll keep reinforcing and recreating that exact pattern for you." And so it does exactly that, faithfully and consistently, again and again and again in an endless cycle. You don't actually manifest from your beautifully designed vision board with all those carefully selected images and affirmations written on it. You manifest directly from your nervous system's baseline state, from the energetic field your body naturally emits constantly. You manifest from the energy you're unconsciously putting out into the field when you're not even thinking about manifestation at all, when you're simply just living your regular everyday life without any spiritual practice happening, when you're reacting instinctively to unexpected situations, when you're processing stress and overwhelm, when you're handling disappointment and setback, when you're celebrating your wins or grieving your losses. That's when your true vibration shows up most clearly. You manifest directly from the underlying tone of your thoughts when you're completely alone, late at night with just yourself and your mind. From the way you genuinely feel about yourself deep down when things don't go according to your carefully laid plans. From the energy you naturally hold and embody in all those quiet spaces between your conscious manifestation efforts and spiritual practices. This fundamental principle is exactly why so many people unconsciously repeat the exact same life cycles over and over throughout their entire lifetime. Because even when the outer behaviors change significantly, even when the daily habits shift, the routines get updated, and the rituals are modified, the inner baseline frequency remains completely untouched and unchanged at its core. You can say the word abundance out loud 100 times every single day with passion and conviction. But if your physical body is still neurologically wired for scarcity consciousness and survival mode, the quantum field doesn't actually hear or register abundance in your signal at all. It clearly hears lack instead, and it responds accordingly by continuing to create circumstances that match that frequency of lack. And the truly challenging part that most people struggle to accept is that the field is absolutely not punishing them for anything they've done wrong or any spiritual mistakes they've made. It's simply reflecting their core vibrational signal back to them with absolutely perfect accuracy, like a flawless mirror that can't lie. But here's the part that the vast majority of people completely miss when they're caught up in frustration and self-blame. This repetitive pattern isn't actually a sign that you're fundamentally broken as a person or damaged beyond repair. It's absolutely not proof that you're not worthy of receiving the desires of your heart or manifesting the life you dream about. It's not even legitimate evidence that you're somehow bad at manifesting or don't have what it takes to create change. It's actually a mirror, a precise, unflinching, completely honest vibrational mirror that's showing you exactly what frequency you're broadcasting out into the world. And mirrors, by their very nature, don't lie to us or try to deceive us in any way, they just reflect back what's actually there. So what if, instead of endlessly chasing after a brand new reality with more and more techniques, more tools, more books, more expensive courses and programs, you simply became coherent enough energetically to allow the quantum field to naturally reflect something completely different back to you? What if the real work that needs to happen isn't about constantly adding more practices and rituals on top of what you're already doing, but instead it's about dissolving and releasing the old, outdated frequencies that keep looping on repeat? It's almost like there's an invisible code running constantly in the background of your entire life, dictating and determining your experiences without your conscious consent or awareness whatsoever. Because here's the reality that needs to be stated clearly and directly: you absolutely cannot out-affirm your established energetic baseline, no matter how hard you try or how many affirmations you repeat. You cannot successfully manifest higher and create elevated experiences while simultaneously being anchored down in the emotional patterns and vibrational habits of your past experiences and old identity. You cannot genuinely expand into your future self and step into that new version of you while still gripping tightly onto the same old limiting stories, the same outdated self-perceptions, and the same frequency signatures that previously defined who you were before this moment. The loop continues playing out not because you're not trying hard enough or putting in sufficient effort. It continues because you're still unconsciously repeating the exact same vibrational signature day after day. You're repeating the same morning routine you've always done, but carrying the same undercurrent of fear and anxiety running beneath it all. You're repeating the same mantras and affirmations you've memorized, but they're still infused with the same residual self-doubt you've always carried. You're taking new actions and making different choices, but you're carrying the exact same old energetic postures and positions within your nervous system. And the field, it picks up on that subtle but powerful energy as your actual signal, and it reflects it back to you with absolutely relentless consistency. This right here is the true root of quantum repetition that keeps people stuck. The field isn't actively resisting your desires or blocking your manifestations. It's faithfully reflecting your identity back to you with perfect precision. And identity, in this context, isn't what you consciously say it is or what you claim in your affirmations. It's what your frequency says it is at the deepest level. It's the sum total of what you expect to happen based on past experience, what you allow into your life, what you tolerate from others and yourself, and what you settle into energetically when nobody's watching you and when all the spiritual rituals are over and it's just you alone with your raw energy. So, if you genuinely want to stop repeating the same frustrating reality over and over like a broken record, you have to stop repeating the same outdated frequency that creates it in the first place. And to actually do that successfully, you absolutely must become exquisitely aware of what you've been unconsciously looping through again and again, emotionally, mentally, vibrationally, at every single level of your being. Because until you consciously interrupt that automatic loop and break the pattern, you're not actually manifesting a genuinely new life for yourself. You're simply decorating the old one with prettier, more spiritual sounding words, shinier new tools and techniques, and more sophisticated practices that create an illusion of change. But here's the shift that changes everything once you truly understand it, once you finally become genuinely aware of the loop you've been stuck in, once you can accurately name it, observe it objectively, and feel it in your body without completely collapsing into identification with it, you can consciously choose to step out of it entirely. That's the true essence of quantum shifting in its purest form, not forcing a brand new reality into being through sheer willpower, but naturally becoming a completely new frequency, so that the reality that perfectly matches it can collapse effortlessly around you without any struggle. In the comments right now, drop one word, just one single word, that captures the energy you're consciously choosing to carry forward from this point on in your journey. Maybe it's alignment for you, maybe it's ease, maybe it's power, or maybe it's something uniquely yours that resonates with your soul. Let that word be a small but genuinely profound declaration, a clear signal like a quantum seed you plant not just in this comment section, but directly in the quantum field itself. And that's exactly what we're going to do together throughout the rest of this video experience. We're going to dive deep. In the next section coming up, you're going to discover precisely how your subconscious mind creates these vibrational echoes that perpetuate the same experiences over and over. Why your conscious mind resists change so fiercely, even when your soul is desperately craving transformation. And the missing key element to creating an entirely new reality, not through exhausting effort, but through natural resonance and alignment. We're not just talking abstract theory here that sounds good but doesn't work. We're talking about real transformation, deep and lasting change, vibrationally real transformation that actually sticks. So, take a deep breath right now. Let the old frequency loosen its grip on your nervous system. Allow the patterns you've outgrown to begin dissolving in the expanded space of your awareness. And get ready, because in the next section you're going to see with absolute clarity exactly how your energy has been looping and how to break free from it permanently. You now understand clearly that what keeps repeating in your life isn't your unchangeable fate or your destined path. It's your frequency, your vibrational signature. But how does that actually work beneath the surface level of conscious awareness? How does your subconscious mind, your nervous system, and the quantum field collaborate together to keep you experiencing the same reality again and again, even when consciously you're craving something completely else? It all starts with this fundamental truth. Your subconscious mind is absolutely not designed to make you happy, fulfilled, or successful. It's specifically designed to keep you safe from perceived threats and danger. But here's the catch. Safe doesn't mean fulfilled or expanded or living your dreams. Safe simply means familiar, known, predictable to your nervous system. Your subconscious mind holds within it the accumulated sum of all your experiences, your deep-rooted beliefs, your unresolved traumas, and your habitual emotional responses, all wired together through years, maybe even lifetimes, of consistent reinforcement and repetition. These ingrained patterns create what neuroscientists refer to as neural pathways in your brain, deep grooves of thought, feeling, and behavior that become completely automatic, effortless, and unconscious over time. Your nervous system takes these well-worn pathways and memorizes them as your default settings for everything: how you instinctively respond to stress and pressure, how you experience love and connection, how you handle money and abundance, how you perceive opportunities that come your way, and how you process rejection and disappointment when things don't work out. All of these deeply ingrained patterns form together into a vibrational blueprint that your physical body emits constantly, even when your conscious mind is focused on something completely else. Here's the catch that trips most people up. The quantum field responds directly to that subconscious blueprint, not to your conscious intentions or wishes or desires, not to the words you speak out loud with conviction, but to the frequency you are most consistently broadcasting from your subconscious programming, your dominant vibrational signature that runs beneath everything else. And the vast majority of that signature is completely unconscious, automatically emitted from your body's habitual responses, your reflexive thoughts. This is precisely why change feels so incredibly hard and nearly impossible sometimes. Because when you try to manifest something new and different, you are often doing it from the exact same subconscious program that originally created the current reality you're trying to escape from. It's like trying to write a completely new story with the same old script running in the background, autocorrecting everything you type back to what it used to say before you started changing it. Let's bring in quantum physics for a moment to understand this better. In the quantum model of reality, everything exists as a field of infinite possibilities and potentials. Each potential reality exists as a wave of probability floating in the field until something collapses it into form. But those probabilities don't collapse into physical form until there is observation, intention, and most importantly, coherence. Coherence is the alignment of your energy across all levels: mental, emotional, physical, and vibrational, all broadcasting the same signal together. Without coherence, your signal is scattered, weak, inconsistent, and a scattered signal cannot override a long-standing, deeply ingrained frequency that's been running for years. Here's where most people get stuck and frustrated. They try to force change from the level of conscious thought alone, not realizing that their subconscious programming is still broadcasting the same old signal at a much more powerful amplitude than their conscious efforts. Neuroscience tells us that up to 95% of our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are unconscious habitual patterns running on autopilot. That means only 5% of your energy is actively participating in creating something new and different, while 95% is reinforcing what already exists in your current reality. This is why, despite your best efforts to think positively or stay in high vibration, you find yourself attracting the same kinds of relationships, the same financial challenges, the same health issues, or the same emotional experiences. Your subconscious mind is still wired for those patterns, and your body is still emitting the frequency of those experiences, creating a powerful magnetic field that draws in more of the same. In quantum terms, your observation, your conscious focus may be on your desired reality, but your vibration, your embodied frequency, is still entangled with the reality you're trying to leave behind. The quantum field responds not to what you want, but to what you are. And what you are is determined largely by the subconscious patterns you haven't yet interrupted. Let's make this even more practical and relatable. Think about the last time you tried to make a big change in your career, your relationships, your health, or your mindset. What happened? Likely, you felt excited at first, full of motivation, ready to take new actions. But then resistance crept in, self-doubt surfaced, old fears reemerged. You procrastinated, you self-sabotaged, you found reasons to delay. That wasn't random. That was your subconscious mind trying to pull you back into the familiar, into what it knows, into what feels safe, even if it's painful. The body plays a crucial role here. Dr. Joe Dispenza often says that the body is the subconscious mind. Your body remembers the feelings, the stress responses, the emotional habits that define your current identity. And every time you try to shift into a new state of being, your body resists, not because it wants to hurt you, but because it has been conditioned to keep you within the parameters of what it knows. The body craves predictability, and so it generates thoughts, emotions, and impulses designed to pull you back into the loop. This is how the mechanism of quantum repetition operates. Subconscious programming creates a consistent vibrational field. The quantum field mirrors that field back to you as reality, and your experiences reinforce the programming, creating an endless feedback loop. Until, and this is the key, you become aware of the loop, observe it without judgment, and deliberately introduce a new frequency into the system. But let's be clear, you can't brute force your way out of this. You can't overpower years of subconscious conditioning with a few minutes of visualization or a list of affirmations taped to your mirror. That's why so many people feel frustrated with manifestation practices. And this is where most people stop. Right on the edge of transformation, unable to cross the threshold because they're still entangled with the frequency of their old self. But you don't have to stop here. You don't have to keep looping through the same reality. You can learn to recognize the patterns, to disentangle your energy from the familiar, and to broadcast a new signal so coherently that the field has no choice but to reflect it back as a new experience. Before we move forward, I want to invite you into something real. If you've been feeling like something's making sense, and if a part of you is realizing your own power, tap like if you just had an aha moment, because like attracts like, and subscribe. Stay with this space, grow with us. This isn't just a channel, it's a frequency. If you felt a nudge or a change while watching, you're already tuned in. We're not just watching content, we're practicing new ways of being. We're not just absorbing, we're creating possibilities. We're not just learning, we're remembering. I'm truly glad you're here. Let's keep growing and shifting together. In the next section, we'll explore how to recognize the exact moment when you're about to loop back into your old frequency and how to use that moment as a portal to shift into a new one. We'll uncover the signs that you're on the edge of a quantum shift and the precise internal movements required to step into it fully. So, take another breath. Feel the recognition in your body. You are not powerless in this process. You are the pattern, and you are the one who can change it. Now that you understand how the loop sustains itself through your subconscious programming and vibrational frequency, let's talk about the precise moment where everything changes or where everything repeats. Most people don't recognize this moment because it doesn't announce itself with clarity. It doesn't come with a sign that says you're about to break the cycle. Instead, it often arrives disguised as frustration, as confusion, or as the subtle sense that nothing is moving forward. But here's the paradox. That sensation of stagnation, that rising tension just before you give up, is often the exact moment you are closest to a quantum shift. Think about it. Before any transformation, there is almost always resistance. Not because transformation is wrong, but because it requires energy to move from one vibrational state to another. It requires destabilizing the old identity before the new one can take its place. That destabilization can feel like everything is falling apart, like nothing is working, like all your efforts are futile. But in reality, what's happening is that the old frequency is beginning to dissolve, and your system, mind, body, and energy is recalibrating itself to hold something new. One of the most common signs that you are on the edge of a quantum shift is the recurrence of your oldest patterns with unexpected intensity. You might find yourself slipping into old behaviors, attracting the same kinds of challenges, feeling the same emotional triggers you thought you had outgrown. This is not a failure. This is a flare-up, the final expression of a frequency that knows it's about to lose its dominance over your life. The subconscious doesn't relinquish its control quietly. It will test your resolve. It will tempt you back into the familiar. It will present you with opportunities to choose the old self again, because that's what it knows how to do. This is why so many people unconsciously sabotage themselves right before a breakthrough. Not because they are weak, but because they are unprepared for the emotional discomfort of leaving behind what is familiar, even when what is familiar is painful. Here's another key sign. You begin to feel emotionally stretched, as if you are standing between two versions of yourself. One part of you is longing for expansion, for new possibilities, for the manifestation of the life you've envisioned. The other part of you is gripping tightly to the known, to the safe, to the patterns that have defined your existence up to this point. This internal tug of war is a hallmark of the quantum shift process. It's uncomfortable, but it's also a sign that you are exactly where you need to be. At this point, many people make one of two choices. They retreat, defaulting back to their old vibrational baseline, repeating the same reality yet again. Or they lean into the discomfort, recognizing it as a signal that they are on the threshold of something profoundly different. The choice you make here determines whether you continue looping or whether you shift. There is also a physiological marker that often accompanies this moment. Your body will resist. You might feel fatigue, tension, anxiety, restlessness, or even mild symptoms of illness. This is because your nervous system is processing the energetic dissonance between your old identity and the new frequency you are beginning to inhabit. Your body has been conditioned to the stress, the limitations, the emotional habits of your previous reality. Moving beyond that conditioning requires a period of adjustment, a kind of vibrational detox. It's important to understand that this discomfort is not a sign that you're doing it wrong. On the contrary, it's evidence that you are disrupting the loop. The system is reacting not to harm you, but to protect the old paradigm. But if you interpret this discomfort as failure, you will retreat. If you recognize it as a necessary part of the process, you will persist, and you will shift. Let's make this more practical. Imagine you're in the process of manifesting a new relationship, a new job, a new level of financial abundance. You've been doing the inner work, setting intentions, visualizing, aligning your actions. But then, out of nowhere, an old fear surfaces. What if I'm not good enough? What if I get hurt again? What if it doesn't work? That fear triggers familiar behaviors. You pull back, you procrastinate, you lower your standards, you settle. The loop is reactivating itself. But what if, in that moment, instead of defaulting to the old behavior, you paused? What if you recognize the fear not as a truth, but as a residue of your previous frequency? What if you chose, in that moment, to breathe, to regulate your nervous system, to stay present with the discomfort without collapsing into it? That is the moment of quantum shift. Not when you force a new reality, but when you stop reacting to the old one. In the comments, share one thing you deeply desire to manifest right now. Maybe it's money, maybe it's a happy relationship, maybe it's a healthy and fit body, maybe it's something uniquely yours. Let this be a small but profound declaration, a signal to the universe you send not just in this space but in the quantum field. Another sign that you are on the edge of a shift is synchronicity, not just the appearance of external signs, but the subtle alignment of internal and external realities. You might notice recurring numbers, symbolic dreams, unexpected opportunities, or moments where your thoughts seem to manifest almost instantly. These are indications that your vibrational field is becoming more coherent, more aligned with the potential reality you are calling in. However, these signs alone are not enough. They are invitations, not guarantees. The real question is, how will you respond when they appear? Will you trust the unfolding even when it feels unfamiliar? Or will you retreat to the safety of your old patterns? The quantum shift requires you to stay in the liminal space, the in between, long enough for the new frequency to stabilize. This is perhaps the most challenging part of the process because it demands faith without evidence, action without certainty, presence without guarantees. But here's the beautiful paradox. It is precisely in that space of uncertainty that the field reorganizes itself around your new frequency. The old reality begins to dissolve, not because you forced it, but because you've stopped feeding it with your attention, your fear, your habitual responses. You've created a vacuum, and the field responds by filling it with the reality that matches your new coherence. So if you're noticing these signs, if your old patterns are resurfacing, if your body is resisting, if synchronicities are appearing, if you feel emotionally stretched between who you've been and who you're becoming, know this: you are not failing, you are shifting. In the next section, we'll explore how to move through this moment of transition with grace and precision. We'll discuss the specific practices that allow you to stop reacting to the old frequency and start embodying the new one, turning the quantum shift from a concept into a lived reality. Take a deep breath. You are closer than you think. So how do you shift? Not in theory, not someday in the distant future, but now, here, in the space between the old self and the one you're ready to become. So the question becomes, how do you stabilize into a new frequency? How do you stop reacting to the old loop and begin embodying a new signal? First, it starts with the body. Most people try to shift their mindset while ignoring their physiology, but your body is the broadcasting tower of your energy. If your nervous system is dysregulated, if your body is still conditioned to respond with fear, tension, self-protection, or urgency, it will override any new thought you try to implant. This is why you can know the right thing, say the right thing, and still feel like you're stuck. The real shift happens when your nervous system becomes coherent with the reality you are manifesting. That means you need to teach your body how to feel safe in unfamiliar emotions, peace, expansion, joy, abundance, especially if it's spent years normalizing anxiety, contraction, scarcity, and doubt. So here's a practice. Instead of trying to affirm your way into your future self, feel into it. Close your eyes and bring to mind the version of you who already lives in the reality you desire. Not just what they have, but how they feel. What is the emotional tone of that version of you? Is it calm, confident, grateful, radiant, anchored? Now bring that emotional tone into your body. Not for performance, not for a trick, but to start training your nervous system to stabilize in that frequency. This is not about pretending, it's about rehearsing a new way of being until your system begins to recognize it as safe. Do it slowly, gently, without force. Even 5 seconds of feeling genuinely different can begin to interrupt the old loop. 5 seconds of coherence is more powerful than 5 hours of mental struggle. Second, observe without collapse. This means becoming aware of your old patterns without identifying with them. When an old fear surfaces, instead of panicking or repressing it, watch it. When you notice a reactive thought, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, does this come from the version of me I'm shifting out of or the one I'm shifting into? This moment of observation is the bridge. It's where your power lives. The more you can witness without collapsing into reaction, the more space you create for a different signal to emerge. Third, disengage from urgency. The quantum field is timeless. When you feel desperate, frantic, or rushed to manifest something, your body is signaling lack and disconnection, even if your mind is visualizing the desired outcome. Slow down. You don't need to chase what's already yours in the field. You need to become a match for it. Remember, reality doesn't shift when you try harder. It shifts when your frequency no longer supports the old. When the energetic infrastructure of your current reality begins to dissolve because it is no longer being held together by your beliefs, your behaviors, your emotions, and your self-concept. One powerful shift: stop asking for proof. Stop needing signs that it's working. When you look for proof too soon, you're signaling doubt. Instead, treat the lack of evidence as a test of your new embodiment. Smile when it doesn't look like it's working, because that's when you know you're starting to anchor a deeper frequency. So much of manifestation isn't about getting more. It's about removing interference. Removing the noise, the tension, the urgency, the old expectations that keep you bound to what no longer fits. The more you remove, the more naturally the signal comes through. You don't have to build the new you from scratch. You just have to stop reinforcing the one you've outgrown. You are not becoming someone new. You are remembering who you already are beneath the layers of fear, doubt, and repetition. And this shift is not linear. It doesn't always feel like progress. Sometimes it feels like stillness, sometimes like contraction. But if you stay coherent, if you keep returning to the signal of your future self again and again, even quietly, even subtly, the quantum field begins to respond in ways you could never have forced into existence. Because the field doesn't respond to your timeline, it responds to your alignment. And alignment isn't a mindset, it's a vibrational home. If this hits you different, if you felt even 1% more aligned after this, subscribe and hit the bell icon. Let's grow together. If this video hits 1000 likes, I'll drop another part with secrets from ancient wisdom that will blow you away. Now, let me ask you, if you're feeling this, and now we're almost there. In the final section, we'll bring it all together. You'll learn how to walk with coherence, how to live this shift day by day, and how to embody it so completely that you become the frequency, and the field has no choice but to mirror it. You've come this far. You've seen how the loop sustains itself, how your subconscious maintains the patterns that keep your reality on repeat, and how your body holds on to the emotional signatures of your past self like a security blanket. You've learned how the quantum field doesn't resist your desires but faithfully reflects the frequency you consistently broadcast, not what you want, but what you are. And now, here you are, standing on the edge of a new reality. The threshold isn't out there somewhere in your future. It's right here, in this moment, as you decide to embody a different frequency, to move beyond reaction and repetition, to become the creator of your reality, not the unconscious participant in its repetition. Let's be clear about something. The quantum shift is not a one-time event. It's not a dramatic explosion that forever changes everything in an instant, although sometimes it can feel like that in certain moments. More often, it's subtle, quiet, an accumulation of micro decisions, micro shifts, tiny moments where you choose to observe instead of react, to soften instead of tense, to trust instead of panic. Each time you choose presence over programming, alignment over urgency, coherence over chaos, you are shifting. You are stepping out of the loop and into the field of infinite possibilities where new realities can collapse into form, not through effort, but through resonance. This is the secret that most people never realize. Your future is not something you chase with desperation and anxiety. It's something you tune into with alignment and coherence. It's a frequency you stabilize in so consistently, so confidently, that the field has no choice but to organize itself around your new signal. This is what it means to live as your quantum self, to recognize that you are not separate from the version of you who already inhabits the reality you desire. You are entangled with that version right now, across the field. The only question is, which signal are you reinforcing with your thoughts, your emotions, your behaviors, your choices? The loop ends when you stop feeding it, when you stop rehearsing the same inner conversations, entertaining the same doubts, repeating the same self-concepts that no longer fit. The shift happens when you allow those old patterns to dissolve, not through force, but through the power of non-resistance. And here's the most beautiful part. You don't have to do this perfectly. The field doesn't require perfection, only consistency, only coherence, only the willingness to return again and again to the signal of your future self, even when your external reality hasn't caught up yet, especially then. Because that's the true test. Not whether you can shift when everything is easy, but whether you can hold your frequency when there's no evidence yet that anything is changing. Can you keep broadcasting the signal of abundance when your bank account still reflects scarcity? Can you stay aligned with love when your relationships still feel turbulent? Can you trust the shift when the loop is still visible in your external world? This is where most people give up. They interpret the lack of immediate results as a sign that it's not working, that they're not good enough, that manifestation is a lie. But you know better now. You know that the field responds to your embodied frequency, not your momentary frustration. You know that the shift happens first in the invisible and only later in the visible. You know that the reality you're stepping into doesn't need to be chased, it needs to be received. Drop a word in the comments that captures the energy you're stepping into today. Trust, flow, joy, ease. Your word matters. Let's turn this into a conversation, not just a monologue. So, let me ask you now, as we close this journey together, are you willing to keep broadcasting the new signal even when the old loop tries to pull you back? Are you willing to walk as the person who has already shifted, even before the world reflects it back to you? Because that's the only real question left. The practices, the theories, the techniques, they all point to this. Will you choose coherence over chaos? Will you choose resonance over reaction? Will you choose to stabilize in the frequency of your future self, not just as a practice? So breathe that in, let it settle. Let the knowing of your power deepen, not as an abstract idea, but as an embodied truth. You are not a victim of your reality, you are its creator. Always have been, always will be. Make sure you share this video with your loved ones. Remember, you are not just sharing, you are spreading transformation. And that positive energy will help manifest the very thing you commented about. Be the friend who shares breakthroughs, not just memes. Share this with someone stuck. Sharing this might just change someone's whole week. Be that person. And if this journey resonated with you, if you felt seen, understood, expanded, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. Not just to keep watching videos, but to stay connected to a space that supports your evolution, your alignment, your ongoing expansion. This is more than content. It's a community of quantum creators just like you, learning to live in coherence with the reality they know is possible. So hit that subscribe button and let's keep growing together. Let's keep shifting together. Let's keep becoming who we were always meant to be. The loop ends here. The shift begins now. Welcome to your new frequency. And speaking of shifts, in the next video, we're diving into something even deeper. The ancient secrets of timeline jumping and how to collapse multiple realities into one accelerated manifestation. You won't want to miss this. Click through now and let's continue this transformation together.